re-entry program for women at the Suffolk County House of Correction has been singled out as a model for crime prevention. The recognition for the CREW program is a Bright Idea Award from the Ash Center at Harvard. To tell us about the program is our guest from the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. We'd like to welcome the Director of Women's Program Services, Christina Ruccio. Thank you very much for being with us, Christina.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
First of all, talk about the people you work with in this program, why they're in the House of Correction, and their age, and
Sure.
where you see them going.
I'd be happy to. As the Director of Women's Programming, I oversee all of the services that we provide our women. At the House of Correction, we have approximately 150 to 180 female offenders. Their crimes are typically nonviolent. So when I say that, I'm going to talk about shoplifting, I'm going to talk about possession of drugs, some prostitution. And it is the goal of the Sheriff's Department, which is why I'm so happy to be here to share this with the community, but it's the goal of the Sheriff's Department, among many things, to provide these women with reentry programming. I mean, we want these women to leave us, and they're all leaving us within a short amount of time. I mean, most of them are only with us for 6 to 8 months. We want them all to leave us with a plan. And so the CREW program is there for that plan.
This is a program that is just for women, and I guess that means you're able to do some things, you're able to focus better. So how does that work out?
What we do is we ask those women that are toward the end of their sentence, so I'm talking about 90 days before the end of their sentence, we ask them to get involved with the CREW program, and what we'll do with them is for 8 weeks before they leave, we provide them with a life skills class. Now, it's a life skills class that's gender specific, and what does that mean? It means that we infuse the curriculum with a lot of issues that adversely affect female offenders versus male offenders. By that I mean we talk about parenting, we talk about substance abuse, we talk about trauma, we talk about domestic violence, and we make sure that they understand those issues first, and then we move at the tail end of the program toward job skills. The heart and soul of the CREW program, the program that won the award from Harvard University, is to provide these women with employment, job readiness training, and eventually job placement.
What about the role of the children? Because some of these are still going to be active parents when they come out of the House of Correction. There must be, what kind of things do you have to get them prepared for?
Honestly, for most of our women, it's to become a parent, period. So we kind of do a parenting 101 with them, readdressing the issues that make parenting so extremely difficult, yet so extremely rewarding. There's a lot of guilt associated with parenting while you're incarcerated. So it's meant to face that guilt, but also prepare them for when they go home and how to best parent and explain the circumstances that brought them to us, albeit temporarily. We have open lines of communication with family if it's appropriate. For example, the Department of Children and Family comes into our House of Correction pretty regularly with children, with our CREW program participants. We encourage, if it's appropriate, family reunification. So that's an equal part of the conversation. As much as we talk about jobs, we're going to talk about the role of parenting. How do you feel parenting from the House of Correction? How are you best prepared to parent when you leave? Resources, resources, resources.
We have our share of celebrity shoplifters who are recidivists. So I imagine there's something of an overlap between the property crime and maybe mental illness. So how do you handle that?
Certainly, we have become almost a de facto mental health institution over the years. I think most houses of correction across the United States can say that. So to that end, the sheriff has contracted with a medical and mental health provider. With the mental health provision come mental health clinicians, and they are working hand in hand with me and my caseworkers in the CREW program and in all of our programming in women's programming. So we're going to see clinicians at the table working with our women before the CREW class, after the CREW class. There's active lines of communication, just wanting to make sure that they have the ability to talk about what's bothering them. Do they need to be on medication? Are there outpatient programs we can provide them with post-release? What you need to know, Chris, and I think what the community would benefit from knowing, is that programming is paramount to Sheriff Cabral, and we couldn't do it without her. And we just want to make sure that our women are getting the best resources that they can get to best prepare them when they're out, and certainly mental health comes with that.
When they get to the end of this program, they look for a job. Is it just sink or swim, or is there something working to see if there's an employer who's Corey friendly, maybe?
Right. I mean, Corey friendliness is a huge hurdle that we work on, and we're honest about that in the crew program. So they're going to work on not only how to write a resume, how to do a cover letter, but also mock trial, I should say mock interviews. We practiced that. As a matter of fact, in January, early January, we're going to have our first job fair at the House of Correction for women only. Employers, through our partner agency with the crew program, Project Place, they know very well about CORI friendliness and are comfortable hiring offenders. So we have that great relationship with Project Place, which, are you familiar with Project Place?
Yes, we've heard of Project Place, yeah.
Really great agency that's been on board with us since the program's inception in 2004. So when it comes to hiring our crew graduates, we look to the expertise of Project Place, and we're able to get our crew graduates in retail, we're able to get them in food service, home health care aides, things along those lines.
What about the funding for this program?
The funding, the seed money, the initial money came from the Federal Department of Education grant. And that money lasted from 2004 to approximately 2008. And what brings me here today, and we couldn't have done it without her, is the fact that Sheriff Cabral knew in January of 2009, when the grant monies ran out, knew that this program was important enough, knew that issues affecting female offenders was important enough, that she went ahead and started funding it on her own. And that is unheard of, especially in these tight, fiscal times when everybody's tightening their purse strings, certainly government agencies. And so with her funding and her support and her commitment, we've been able to continue this program to the extent that we were recently awarded with the Innovations in Government Award, which is a huge, huge feather in our cap. Really allows us to tell the community, look, there's a lot more that goes on in this House of Correction than meets the eye. And the focus for this particular sheriff is programming, and female programming at that.
Well, if a reentry program works, that should mean less money you have to spend on keeping people locked up. So how successful has this been?
Timely question. We just, almost a year ago, released our recidivism study on the crew program. And what we did was we looked at graduates from calendar year 2006, 2007, and 2008. And we compared them to the same pool of women that left us in those years, but they did not participate in the crew program, the reentry program that we're talking about. And what we found was that those women that completed crew were recidivating at a lesser extent versus those that didn't participate in crew. I think the numbers were about 41% crew women recidivated versus 50% of non-crew women came back to see us. And then we can take a look at, okay, now they're back in our House of Correction, what crimes did they commit this second time around? And what we found, taking a closer look, is that the crew graduates offended with less serious crimes versus the non-crew participants. So in a nutshell, it works. I mean, the numbers are telling us it works. And what the crew program is doing is providing these women with post-release support when they leave us for up to 2 years, because it's those first 24 to 72 hours, Chris, that are most crucial. And the crew program is there to give them that wraparound service.
Thank you very much for being with us.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Christina Ruccio from the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department.